Hello, welcome to the Miss Texas Show. This is the show where we highlight the lives of our amazing survivors from traumatic events such as sex trafficking, sexual assault, domestic violence, as well as wartime trauma. In this show, we also invite our community leaders to share the community resources with our audience. We have a segment called Military Time. In this segment, we partner with the National Veterans Chamber of Commerce, and we invite our military as well as veterans to share their stories during and after their service. We also have another segment called Beauty for Ashes, and this is the segment that we invite our pageant sisters, our artists such as dancers, musicians, actresses, actors. But last but not least, our ambassadors who are survivors and come on board to share their platforms and the impact that they're making in our communities. If you would like to be a guest on this show, you can email us at missusatexas@gmail.com. It spells as MSUSA@gmail.com. You can also direct message us on Facebook with the same name, Miss USA Texas. This show is about the sex trafficking and sexual assault series sponsored by Hope PYX Global. Hope PYX Global is a nonprofit organization that helps survivors and victims from all backgrounds who are from the areas of domestic violence, sex trafficking, and sexual assault. Now, without further ado, I would like to introduce our special guest today, Miss Darlene J. Clark. Welcome.
Thank you so much, and thank you for having me.
Thank you. So, Darlene sent me a very long bio, and she has done a lot to help with the community. So, I'm going to do a quick introduction and have her share with us about her story by herself. So, Darlene is a survivor. She's an author. She's an advocate. She's also the NASCAR ambassador. And she is currently working on her book called Shattered Innocence. So I can't wait for your book to come out, Darlene. So now, tell us a little bit of how your story and how did you come about doing what you're doing now.
Well, it's my life. I had always known that I was abused in different ways, and I didn't know about the sexual. It was so covered up, it was so hidden. I had it blocked out. Um, when I had a hysterectomy after my two sons through a marriage, uh, and I had it early in life too, and my uterus was doubled in size. That's rare too. And
Oh,
it was an 8-hour surgery that they had to do. That they said usually it takes about 4 hours, and but they actually didn't cut my ureter, which then they had to repair that. And then he said, um, whenever you're in the hospital, the doctor pulls up a chair to the hospital bed. Oh no, that's this bad news when a doctor actually pulls up a chair to talk to you. Said,
right.
have you ever been abused? And I said, yeah, but it's past. That's the way I looked at it. Yeah, but it's past. I didn't want to think about it. I didn't want. He said, I have never seen nobody as internally messed up as you were. He said, I've seen a lot of women that's been internally messed up. He said, your kids are a true miracle. You shouldn't have been able to have kids with the amount of trauma you had. I said, well, both times I got on my knees and I prayed to God, please let me have a son where I could love. And both times I did.
Praise God. Wow, they're
Yes,
true miracles. Yes.
yes, they're true miracles because I wasn't even supposed to be able to have my kids, according to him. He said he worked 4 hours just removing scar tissue, and it was like none had been removed at all. That it was that massive. And he had to stop because I started bleeding too much. So he had to end up doing that. And I had told him, I said, yeah, but it's over. He said, "You're going to need therapy. As bad as I see, you're going to need therapy." And that opened the Pandora's box. Let me tell you. Because then, whenever I started going to bed at night after the hysterectomy, I started having nightmares and the flashbacks, and it was horrendous. It was horrible. And the minute I lay down, I'd pop back up, because of the things that was going in my mind. And I wasn't believing a lot of this. And I ended up having agoraphobia and everything on top of it. And when I spoke with my mom back at my birth mom back in 2005, she asked me, she said, "Are you showing your naked body to men or prostitute yourself?" I said, "No, Mom, I'm an adult. Now I have a choice." She said, "You were born to do that. That's what I taught you to do." I said, "No, Mom, I'm an adult now. I have a choice." She said, "I wish I would have killed you when you were a baby like I wanted to."
Wow. And how old were you when she told you that?
It was 2005, so how many years ago was that?
16 years ago.
So I'm 58 right now, so.
DA, okay. So that would 16 would be 42. You're testing my math now. 42. Wow. So at 42 years and she still tells you that.
Yeah, and so I hung up from her, and I tried several other times to talk with her, but I would hang up. I could not stand to hear her voice. Everybody kept saying, "Well, she's your mom. You need to try and do this. You need to try and do this." No, I couldn't do it. I couldn't get it on myself because there was no way we were going to get along when she was telling me this kind of stuff. So,
Absolutely.
and then I had flashbacks when I started doing the memory, and the very first sexual thing that I remembered, that when I had to go really back, was her putting my naked 2-year-old body on a kitchen table. My my daddy and one of his army buddies sit right there at the table, opened up a beer bottle on the side of the thing, and I had to lay there still while the guy got up and put the beer bottle up. And my mom telling me I better lay still. He paid her money to do this. And my dad was standing right behind and watched.
Eh,
And the next thing I know, I'm in the bathtub and the water's all bloody. And I didn't know where none of my siblings were or nothing. Like, I had so many other siblings, and I'm like, where are they at this point? And then one time I was laying on the couch, and I remember my dad coming there, spread my legs, and got a knife and cut a third of me off between my legs at my private area. So part of me is gone. And I asked the doctor a couple years ago, I said, "Would you please check me down there to make sure that it's valid, that this memory is valid, okay? Whether it's a fake memory or a real memory." And she looked down there and she said, "Yes, it's valid. You were cut down there." I said,
wow.
then I spoke to a sibling of mine, and she said that when my dad came back from Germany, he had a book on how to have sex with kids. And that's
Wow.
probably why he did it, you know. And I thought a lot of this stuff was in my mind, but years later, when after I was married and I was going through doing genealogy, there was a state trooper who I met we talked on the phone, and we decided to meet on at the library, which is a public place. This was way before all the COVID stuff. And before I could even get sit down, he said, "I remember you." I said, "From what?" He said, "From all the sexual tapes." I said, "What?" And I ended up falling into the chair. My legs went out from underneath me. I
Oh.
just fell into the chair. I could not move. The only thing I could do was talk to him. And I said, "Well, since you're a state trooper, I hope you disposed of all them tapes that your daddy died." He said, "No." He said, "And I enjoyed doing you. You're in the majority of there was over 300 tapes." And he said, "I was in the majority of them."
Oh.
And I thought, what? That just blew me away. It's just like, thank God I don't have the memory, you know. But the worst memory, I don't know if I should talk about it or not, but my stepmom, she was a very hateful person. This was after Daddy died, and I was a teenager, probably about 15, 16 year old. It's summertime, but um, earlier when it was colder, she had held me down while her son raped me. And when it was close to school starting, I wondered why she had a fire burning outside and tires in and around it. But she literally forced me to the floor, stuck a hanger up me, and I had a baby boy. No proof. There is no hospitalizations. Nothing. It's my word against hers. So when I went to the hospital with doctor's office the first time with the first pregnancy with married, I had forgot all about this son. Okay, I had forgot totally, blocked it out. And they said, "You had a baby before. What'd you do with it?" I did not remember having a baby before. It's, it's, I blocked it out. And they even called the police to question me. So I was in the there, and they were questioning me and everything. And I've been trying to get the records of all this, and it seems like all my records keep going missing. Somebody keeps covering this stuff up. But anyway, whenever I told him I had to call my husband at work, and he came and got me and told them I never had a kid before. Because as far as we knew at the time, I didn't.
Right.
I didn't. He didn't know nothing about it either. So they finally let me go. But years later in therapy, when I finally got a psychiatrist that I trusted, I remembered about that rape. I remembered about the baby. And boy, I was suicidal like all get out because I was seeing this and seeing the baby. I was laying in the floor. My stepmom, me and the baby bonded, and he put his little hand around my finger, or gazing at me. He was alive. And then my stepmom reached down and she got him from me, and then I could just see the backside of her walking away. Okay, and she was to the right of the sink, and there was two doors. One was a knife door, one was the regular silverwood door. Well, I heard one of the doors open, but I didn't know which one opened until I said the knife over her head coming down and like this at the baby. And then I don't remember no more. See,
Oh,
like I said, devastating sexual abuse. And I got this all covered up. And when I remembered that, the psychiatrist, he said, "Well, I can't turn it in because you might go to jail for something that she did. You might go to
right.
jail the rest of your life for this." So I'm all the time having it's aggravating. So when I'm learning all this and finally got over that part, and then I did some writings in a dissociative identity disorder group years ago, people were liking my writings. So they was asking me if they could have copies of it because it explained how they felt. So they could take it to their doctor. So this is how I've really been trying to say how I felt. This is the right. So I gave them permission and everything. So it made me want to start getting out there writing. And that's what started pushing my move. And so, are you there?
I don't know why. Oh, so sorry. I don't know what happened to the camera. Yes, I'm back.
I
Yes.
know that's even hard for me. People say, how do you not remember having a baby? I guess it's the brain's thing about protection or something. I don't really understand, and I'm still not safe when I go over there near that area because they told me if I ever tell, they're going to kill me. And murder is a dangerous thing. For so but they got away with it. And I ran into her, my stepmom, about 2 years ago at a yard sale. I did hug her because normal, I had to act normal whether I was intent inside. It really, really, really intense, hurt bad. Okay. Oh, but I hurried on and went to the house where I was house sitting, locked the door, and then I heard somebody beeping the horn. And I knew it was them trying to get me outside. There was no way I was about to open the door and go out there and put myself in more danger. Because she had told me out there, she said, "You know, I work at a lawyer's office, don't you?" And I said, "Yes, I know you do." She said, "Well, if something ever happens, I got this lawyer that I'm working for, but if it works out that I can't use him, I got my old other buddy over here. So she's threatening me basically, you know what I'm saying?
Yes.
And then later that afternoon, and my friends, the husband had done went on his trip, and the wife was going to go later, but she went to the movies. She had a movie job to do. So she was home at the time, and I guess whoever didn't expect her to be home, and they were bamming on the side on the garage door, which has never happened before, and it just so happened the same day that you know they knew I was there.
Mm.
So she said she got a gun, and we went outside, checked around, and it was nowhere. But she told me to post at Facebook. Whoever comes back like that, they might leave with more hoes than what they came with. So it's like I'm being threatened in ways. Still I'm being kind of like stalked and endangered at times.
Yeah, we want to, the primary purpose of this show is to provide a safe environment and platform for people, who are survivors, who are victims, who are advocates to come together, share their stories so that they can support each other, provide resources. So I want to encourage you that, we totally agree that safety is the number one. Please make sure, and I'm sure that, as a NASCAR ambassador, you know the hotlines and to dial 911. But yes, absolutely, you will need to be make sure that safety is number one. But you
Yeah,
are
what
in a safe environment right now, right?
right. It's
Okay.
like no matter where I moved in that certain state, they always found me because I always had somebody banging on my windows and doors and running constantly, no matter where I moved. So I knew it had to be them. It's like they found me again. They
Wow.
found me again. And one time, one my boyfriend's son said, "Did you hear the person shooting outside your window last night?" I said, "No, I was in a dead sleep. I didn't hear it.
Oh,
Somebody was really outside my window shooting a gun.
did they shoot through the window or
Out
were?
there outside, they must have shot in the air or whatever just to try to scare me.
Yes, yes.
And so it don't end. To me, I take that as threats.
Yeah, you mentioned about people asked you, how could you possibly forget that you have had a child? And people had no idea of, childhood. In several of my previous shows, I have interviewed guests who are medical professionals, who are survivors of these traumas. And I don't know if yourself or the audience are familiar with ACEs, adverse childhood experiences. And when a child is a child and their brain is not fully developed, and when these trauma happen to them, they cannot fully process it. And this builds, like, when people think this is just like a psychological damage, this is actually a physical damage as well. So it is very possible that you don't remember. And I am very sorry that you have to re-remember all these things to have to tell the story, but I am so proud of you, darling, for where you are today. And you are such a warrior because you're a NASCAR ambassador now, and you're advocate and you're author. You're trying to share the story so that you can help other people, right? So,
Yes.
so do you think, like, you mentioned that you started writing those things down. Do you think these help you with a healing journey? Do you think these are therapeutical?
Well, the only way that I feel therapeutical, not when I'm writing and seeing our words and I feel better. Mine's not like that. My healing is when somebody sees my writing and say, "Oh, that helps me." That's when it's therapeutic to me. Only when I know that my writing is helping someone else.
That is
And
beautiful.
at one time, one of my psychiatric therapists here, he told me that there's been 6 other cases of exactly like mine, where the baby and everything
Wow,
that he's had himself over the years. And it's all in this vicinity. That's scary.
it is. This this is why I wanted to provide this platform, because this is happening to us, and this is happening to our children, to ourselves, and we need to be educated so that we can stay safe and prevent this from happening. But we also need to educate from both ends, from the end of the, whether we call the pimp for sex trafficking or the perpetrator of sexual assault, regardless of what their situation is, and put them on this foot to understand what kind of impact that they are causing to the victims and now the survivors. And very unfortunately, some of them, they never make it.
Right.
I'm so proud of you that it is a miracle. I mean, without saying anything, without God, it is not possible that you have 2 kids. And I'm so happy for you that this is happening. But some people, they just have permanent damage. They never can have kids again. Some people, they just have permanent, psychological damage that they can never get out of the situation. Even, today I speak to survivors, and they have survived, and they still, you know, I would like you to share with us. I think that will be better for me than I explain. But correct me if I were wrong. I've worked with survivors, and sometimes, people just say, okay, I don't know if I'm ready to share the story yet, for whatever the reason. Just like you've mentioned, okay, they threatened me. And in other case, you said you are 58 years old. I've worked with, a survivor. For instance, she said, I'm not sure. The first time I met her, she said, I want to start speaking in public as well. So we started talking, and then she said, I'm just not sure about sharing my story because I don't know if the abuser may harm me. And bear in mind that happened like decades ago. We're not talking about a couple years ago, decades ago. And these are, and then there's another survivor, and we had, these are all like our warrior sisters. I call them, like yourself. And these are guests on the show. And when you listen to their shows, they feel like relieved that the abuser died, because just in their mind, because they were abused when they were little. And now, even if they are, doesn't matter, even if they're 70 years old, that person in their mind when they were little, that was the person who abused them. So please share with us, like, what you think, what your opinion is, like the damage that can cause to the victims, especially when they're that young.
Oh boy. The damage, like, I want to tell you one thing. I had doubted a memory years ago, and I just it kept flashing in my face, about seeing kids in cages, like little rabbit cages and different things, kids in it, okay?
Yeah.
And me running and unlocking the cages and telling the kids to run to the front of our house, to the front and to in front of the house, that somebody will be there. It's almost like God telling me to tell them, right?
Yes.
Then I run into the 2 people because I got beat and put in a wooden box up and put up underneath the house to die.
Oh.
This guy must have knew about me being under there, and he saved me. And he took my broken body and took me to. He said he took me to a hotel. He said then I was able to walk and stuff like that in 3 days. Okay, the cops found me, and then well, they said I'm a missing person since I was 15 anyway. Okay, and so this is about around that time. Okay, so it's kind of crazy because the cops came and he told them, he said, look at all the bruises on her. Look, look what they did to her. Um, and they says, well, her stepmom's got custody of her, so I'm taking her back. They did not go and protect me, knowing the damage and the bruises and the beat up like that was put in a coffin and everything to die under the house. And the cops took me back. How crazy is that? Then years later, I go and like the same dating site, I'm talking to a guy, and he's got a thing where he's got survivors that women that lives, but his is more of a cult that he put them in. And then this lady said, "I remember you." She said, "Yeah, I was begging you." I said, "Oh yeah, you were at my leg, and I told you just go on, sister." I called her sister and told her to go on to front of the house and be safe. She said, "I'm worried about you." I said, "I'm more, worried about you. Just go get safe. I'll take the brunt of whatever. Just go be safe." And I said, "Was everything okay?" She said, when she got home, they had killed her twin sister.
Oh.
So it's like, what? So, but I don't even remember that lady's name or nothing. So I can't, I cannot give no information about who she is or nothing. But that was kind of weird because that was validating with me going like that and getting the kids. I didn't want it to be hurt or what these adults had in store with them, because there's a lot of adults right there to do these things to the kids at the time. And I ran to try to help the kids. But anyway, so the damage, like she said, she's having trouble getting through this. And the psychiatrist told me, he said, no matter what anybody tells you, you're doing a damn good job doing what I'm doing. It says, because majority of people would just, one thing that happened to me, they would be in an institution. He said, you
Yes.
are not in an institution. You're doing good. You might have some nerve problems or whatever, but who wouldn't? That's what he said, but who wouldn't? He says, and I was asking about being normal. He said, you would not be normal if you didn't react. If somebody shot off a gun right next to me and I didn't have that PTSD thing, that would not be normal to me. For the trauma that I endured, and if I got a reaction, that's normal for me. So everybody says they want to be normal. You got to be normal to your life. Don't fit into everybody else's criteria. They didn't walk in your shoes to know, what you've been through. It's you that live that life. And why can't we, like if, for instance, if there was another Jeanette, like right here, there's a Darlene and Jeanette. Jeanette, my friend. Jeanette's, I'm being nice to Jeanette, saying, oh, hugging, it's okay, it's okay. Why can't I do that for myself? Why can't I be that nice and non judgmental? We were judged enough. We need to stop that cycle. And yes, whenever, like, I I did not think that when my mother passed away, the one that had me on the table when I was 2, and then that said that thing that I was should be a prostitute, whatever. Um, when she died, I thought I was gonna be okay. I thought I was gonna have a party or something. But the missing thing about never having the connection of a real mom, that idea was gone. The idea to never, now that she's dead, it cannot ever be completed. That missing is gone. So I had trouble walking, and I had seizure like problems, stroke like problems. And I had trouble talking and walking, and I was falling down and everything. And even my family attacked me on Facebook when I put, Lord, please help me and pray that, I said, the years of abuse. And then my brother said that Mama never did abuse us. It's all just BS. And it was threatening to beat everybody up. And I was like, you know what? That right there shows that he's violent himself, threatening my friends. And then later on he goes, well, it wasn't only you that suffered like that. So I'm not supposed to tell your story. I'm telling my story. If you want to tell your story, tell your story. It might be a different aspect, but I'm telling my story through my eyes. And, having that medical validation too, what shows that it was true about my daddy cutting me down there. So you can't tell me that, like one of my sisters is a preacher, and she said that things that happened to me was God's punishment to me for being a bad girl, even the sex abuse at age 2. So guess what? She's toxic to me. She's gone. Okay, she's no longer. She's wiped away. I don't keep anything like that near me. And then my brother wants me to look at my mother and father as heroes, and my and I said no. And he said, well, think of him as a hero because he raised so many kids. There was 9 of us living at home, but they weren't all his. I said, brother, it's not what about raising kids. It's about how you raise the kids, how you treat the kids. If you treated the kids with dignity, respect, and love, yes, I would look at him as a hero. And then he said, well, Hitler, well, look at him as a hero since he's dead. I said, well, hell, Hitler's dead too, but I ain't going to look at him like a hero. And I'm sorry for using a couple of these words that I used, but this is just the thought around behind that. And, but yes, uh, even there's a certain words I will not say though. And whatever you do, don't call me cute. I cannot stand it because that's my mom would take me. She had me till I was 4 years old, and she abandoned me in the grocery store. But she would take me to cafeterias, and I would just be sitting there alone. I was thinking, well, oh, I'm going to get my own drink or something. But no, I never had the opportunity to have nothing to eat or drink. She took me there hoping somebody would want to buy me.
Oh.
She took me to the restaurant one on one just so that men could buy me. And here I thought I was a special girl at that time where I got to go and maybe get something to drink at a cafeteria. You know. And yes, there were good people in my life. There's been some positive role models. There's been some true friends. And I can attribute a lot of this. And I will raise them up, because thank God for them. But I was blasphemed from the church. I was told by an elder that it was best to let my husband kill me. It's my only way to heaven. See, when I was remembering these memories, he was beating me as well. So I was going through domestic abuse at the same time when I was remembering this horrendous nightmare about my mom killing my baby.
And
You
that
know,
was the husband who had the 2 kids with you.
right.
Oh, wow.
But the first kid that's dead was my stepbrother's kid that my stepmom, when she held me down. You know,
Yes.
yeah.
Yes.
So
So
that, that
you are safe from that. I would that be correct to call him ex-husband now? You're not together anymore.
right. We
Okay.
divorced. He threatened that he would knock me for flips and other kind of things. And the police said, well, he could hit you all he liked as long as he don't kill you. And then when he threatened to kill me after they had all the proof about him beating me before, they said, well, we can't do nothing until he actually does it. So
Wow.
then I ran all the way to New York and lived in New York for a while. All the way from Alabama, I went.
Wow, that's a long way. That's a long way.
Yes, and it was, and it was upstate New York, and everybody was telling me, you ain't gonna like New York, don't, whatever, I do got some interesting tales about New York, but but the majority of it was very good because I would be walking on, like I would walk on a sidewalk, and people would say, "Are you okay?" Like if I stumbled a little bit or whatever. I'm not used to that in our state. The Southern hospitality was actually up north. And I was like, the Southern hospitality is there and not here. People down here don't care.
Yeah, you know you need it is very clear that when you were growing up that you were not receiving the love from your parents, even your biological parents, and instead on the opposite they did this horrible crime to you that causes this series of traumas, and one thing led to another. We interviewed people from, for instance, the Boy Scout of America, the sexual assault, right? So I believe they were on NASCAR as well, and we talked about the trauma that's causing for the later relationships, just like holding a normal life. So I'm so proud of you, where you are now.
It's kind of funny because my dad was a Cub Scout master.
Oh.
I mean, when you bring that up, I'm thinking, my dad was a Cub Scout master.
Would Wow, I'm not sure if he contributed to that as well.
I don't know,
Uh,
with him being that way, the way he was towards me, I think he changed at this percent time in his life. A little bit before he died, but we had an awkward conversation um, like a week before he died.
mm-hmm.
He was going to come back from that one job and take me away and marry me
Marry you to who?
to him.
Wow,
I
that
said, I said, Dad, how could you marry me? You're my father.
yeah.
How could you marry me? He said the church would allow it once they know the truth. And he was going to come back from that job and tell me the truth. But the only way I think of it, when he says that he can marry me and they know the truth, that means he would not be my father. And
Oh,
I got all kind of secrets about my life that's just hidden that I just don't know.
yeah, yeah.
But by the grace of God, even though the times they try to kill me, I'm still alive.
And there's a
Yep.
purpose for why you're still alive, because God has a purpose for you to do what you're doing now. Just like you said, her healing is when other people say, look, this happened to me as well, and this helps me. And this is your calling. And thank you so much for what you do. I really applaud you for what you do. And I wanted to mention that, I'm really proud of you, even though I'm not a medical professional by no means, but I really believe that self-love is number one. When you have to stand up for yourself and set a boundary from your parents, from your brother, from obviously what is wrong. And that is when you finally take the stand, say, that's enough. And I'm gonna take care of myself, gonna love myself. And like you said, give yourself the hug. And I when you were saying that, I was looking down because and I was making notes at the same time, but I was also pulling up encouragement for you. I wanted to tell you that if you are searching for that one person that will change your life, take a look in the mirror. That is yourself. And I wanted to tell you that because that is really you. And you are making the change for your life. And that's what you're doing. I'm so happy for you, so proud of you. Another thing I wanted to share that I'm not sure if you've heard the author, famous British author called Marissa Peer, and she had a book called I Am Enough.
I
And
am in love.
yes, you can look her up, and we are very blessed that Miss Peer has been very supportive of our efforts of my platform to help with survivors. So we are giving the ebook for free because in her book she tells the root cause of many psychological problem is about that the self confidence when it goes down to domestic violence, the abuser trying to manipulate you to try to do this the cycle about showering you with gifts and showing you the love and start abusing you and goes back to this cycle again to the pimps who are
I never
trying
had
to
that
do
part.
that. I
I
know.
never had the showering of gifts or nothing like that. I never had that. Even at Christmas time, the day after Christmas, my daddy would have a big fire and put our gifts on the fire so Christmas is over. So,
Oh,
I'm not used to gifts, even on birthdays or nothing. I'm not used to it. So they didn't shower me with attention, but what the negative attention, I guess, because and I guess the one thing that sewed in me as a kid was this cuteness, cuteness. And for think of when you think about it, and when I shared with the wrong person one time, and I said, well, that state trooper said I was in a majority of over 300 of videos, that he had, and said, can you believe that person went and told so many people, oh, she's had sex with like 600 men, possibly. I'm like, what?
wow.
So my reputation is like I'm a big whore because of this. And I'm not a whore. This was something rapes. This was
Right.
child rapes. This is nothing that I willingly did. This was forced upon, and we do not need to blame ourselves. That was hard for me to do. I blamed myself for many years. It was very difficult taking that blame away from myself and blaming the perpetrators. But I want to give advice to others that they need to please stop blaming themselves. And another NASCA workers told me 1-800 for a child. They answer the call 24/7 if it's for a child.
Yes.
So they are there 24/7. So
And do
she's
you have
checked
the
on
phone
that.
number that you can share with our audience?
It's 1-800 the number four a child. I
Okay.
believe is what she had said.
Okay. I'm actually a NASCAR ambassador for Texas as well, but I can't, remember the number from my mind. So 1-800, the number for a child. Definitely, we
Uh,
will put in the number at the content section below, along with the other information about Darlene as well. So yeah,
yeah,
I love what you're
Tennessee.
sharing.
I'm the NASCAR ambassador for Tennessee.
That is great. I am so proud of you for
Thank
what you're
you.
doing, and because we all need to join the forces. This is a huge crime, and this is a growing epidemic. I always call it. Unfortunately, a lot of the people see the COVID, and yes, the COVID is you have signs. Maybe sometimes it's asymptomatic, but most of the time you will see the signs. And for this, it's growing and it's hidden. And for the people that has never happened to them, they didn't know this is happening. So thank you so much. I really appreciate that you're educating people about the awareness about this. And I think it's really important for them to understand this so that they can prevent that from happening to themselves, to their children. And but if they do see a sign, then they can reach out to help other people. So I do want to ask you as well, I'm really interested in about your next book, The Shattered Innocence. When do you think the next book will be out?
I'm hoping to have it done by February. If I've got to find the right people who can edit it right the way I want, you know, I want to do it through Amazon, I suppose. You know,
That would be
um,
awesome. I cannot wait to see that. Let us know when the book is out, and who knows? Whenever you're ready, maybe we'll bring you up to share your book again. But that is awesome. And also, you've shared about earlier on, say stop blaming the victims and stop. In my words, I call stop labeling them, right? Because I always say that never say that you are a victim, Never label yourself as a victim. Victim is what people did to you. You didn't do it to yourself. You didn't want to do that. You didn't decide to, okay, I want to be born to this world to be a victim of whatever crime that is. You are a survivor of it. And most importantly, you are now an advocate and doing this huge impact to the community. I'm so proud of you. So, but
Thank you.
besides this, is there any takeaway that you would like to share with our audience?
Whether you hear a story, like sometimes I wish I would have told about something, because now that I'm older in life, I worry about this particular thing. Like, there was a particular guy who, thank God he's dead, so I don't have to try to find him anymore to try to figure out. But he was, it's crazy what some people think their ideals. And he said there was this 6-year-old girl that comes up to him in her bathing suit because she's swimming outside, in her little bitty pool, kiddie pool. And she comes up in her bathing suit and sits beside him. And he said, she's coming on to me. So when her parents leave the room, he feels over. I said, do what? Do your parents know? He said, obviously they got to know something. I said, not obviously. They might be trusting you. And I said, what's her name? And I could not get nothing out of it because I wanted to report it like then and there, whatever. So if y'all know of anything, report it. And the bad thing is with COVID, more people's keeping their distance away. So whenever you see somebody pulling somebody away, you think automatically it might be because of scare of COVID. And it's the same kind of reaction they do when the people perpetrators go to keep people all boxed in and trapped in. So try to be a voice. Try to be a voice. Try to listen. Try to hear. You might be that person's only way out. You might be their hope.
Yes. Yes, lend a
I had
helping hand.
I had three different instances when I decided I kept giving up my book. Okay, the first instance, within 3 days, a friend of mine he lived in Texas, and there was a sheriff that called him and told him about a little girl that was tugging on her mama's boyfriend's coat or shirt or whatever. They were at the top of the stairs fussing. And the little girl went there tugging on her shirt. Please stop fighting. He backhanded her and had sent her body down a flight of stairs and killed her, you know. And then that was within 3 days of me saying it. So he said, you need to do your book. Does this not prove it? That's like a slap in the face. And then another lady had contacted me some of the time, and she wanted me to try to talk to her daughter to try to get her out of the relationship of her husband abusing her. I mean, her boyfriend, which they had two kids together. And I tried to talk to her, and something told me to tell her if you don't get out within a year, you're going to be killed. And I told her that, and she said, I'll try. But she said, I really think he loves me. Well, she was the one up in Minnesota or something years ago, what was stabbed over 80 something times. He killed her.
Oh,
And so she did not make it out. You know, I wish she would have listened to me. I wish she would have heeded my voice, but I did all I knew I could do. You know, you can't just drag somebody out of there. And the third one was a little Giante Glass in Alabama when I was living there. And the mother had drove up to the gas station, and then she went in and she said, oh, somebody stole my car with him in the back seat. And the poor little boy, it was all a lie. They later found the car in one of the family's garages. The little boy dead in the back of it because the mama's boyfriend beat him for bringing home a bad report card, blunt force trauma to the abdomen and stuff.
wow.
Yeah. So if there's a lot of people says they felt like he might have been being abused, or I felt like she might be in abuse. I saw these scars. I saw that. Back when I was a teenager, the principal called me into the office and had me go in there an hour each day for a week. Okay, I did not know why he called me in there, and later on, I found out around the time that I talked to my mom and she said all that, wish she killed me one children. But anyway, I called him and I said, "Why did you do this?" He said, "I knew you were being abused at home, but we needed you to say something." But I had no inkling that that's what it was for. I said, "Yeah, but usually if I told, then I got to go back home, back into it." He said, "No, we had you a place. If I would have known, I would not had to go back to that place." So we got to think about another way of asking kids without being too direct, to let them know that it's going to be safe. You're going to get out of here. You ain't got to go back. You know what I'm saying? There's got to
Yes.
be some kind of avenue out there. Because, see, if he would have said, "I'm talking to you about, were you abused or something?" Uh, so he couldn't suggest it to me. You know what I'm saying? So he would have been in trouble. So it's like, why do they do this? Because they got you already scared at home. You're a robot. You're their robot at home to do what they want. You're walking on eggshells. But, if there would have been some way that somebody could have done more, like, I don't know if you know about the story of the child called it. I'm glad they stood up for that and got him out of it. But the next son, what I don't understand why they didn't get all the kids out of it, because the next boy up, he became the child called it. And yeah, the next son, his brother did after they took him out. Then the mama treated him that way. I mean, there's something very wrong with our system. It's broken. We need to step up. We don't need to just sit back and watch. We need to try to help what we can, whether it be sexual or whatever. And I want people to know that violence escalates. It does not usually dwindle down. It gets worse. So,
That's true. Thank you so much for sharing. So, when you mentioned that, I wanted to our audience to also know that there are the hotlines when you mentioned the violence, and you talked about, sexual assault, and you have offered the NASCAR number. I also want to offer the other resources. If you see any signs, obviously, if a person is in immediate danger, call 911, call your local police. And if you see something that is, fishy that's happening, and if it's related to sexual assault, then call the 1-800-656-4673. And I'll be linking these numbers in the content section below. If you see if it's a domestic violence incident, and call the domestic violence hotline 1-800-799-SAFE. And also there's the National Sex Trafficking for Human Trafficking, as well as that includes labor trafficking and sex trafficking hotline, that is 1-888-3737-888. But thank you so much, Darlene. I really appreciate that you're getting on board to use your special and precious time and sharing with our audience. I know that what you have been through is like traumatic, and it is not easy to mention it again. But just like you said, imagining how the people that are listening will get the help and get the healing from the stories that you're sharing with them. And this is the Miss Texas show. If you're watching this later on, and if you think this information is helpful, please subscribe, give it a like, and most importantly, share to your network of people, because sometimes people might not be talking about it, but share with it so that they know that they are not alone and they can get the help needed. And lastly, I also wanted to mention that, as we mentioned earlier in the beginning of the show, this is the sex trafficking, sexual assault awareness series. But I wanted to encourage y'all that even though January is Sex Trafficking Awareness Month, and April is Sexual Assault Awareness Month. I want you to know that even though the Awareness Month is gone, the crime still goes on. We need to encourage you to join me in my initiative of HTAM 365 and SAM 365, which is the Human Trafficking Awareness Month and Sexual Assault Awareness Month 365. I know that I will stand against this until everyone is free, and I know Darlene will as well. So we want you to join us with this. And I mentioned earlier that we are giving away the free ebook about I Am Enough. If you are a victim, a survivor, and an advocate that you think this book can be useful to you, we're going to put a link below so that you can register and get the access code for the book. Well, thank you so much again, Darlene. We can't wait to hear your information about the book. And meantime, you stay safe. We love you all. And I will see you next time.
Love you.
Love
Bye.
you.
Love you.